In the last 1 week in Parliament, there has been a debate that has been raging for decades. But now there is some action on the floor of Parliament where a member has introduced a bill that is seeking to scrap the death penalty. But not everybody agrees with him. And now, because the parliamentarians are beginning to engage it, it's becoming one that we need to pay attention to as well. I'm talking about the death penalty. It's a debate between scrapping it or retaining it. And we're going to get into the discussions that the MPs have been having and where we are with consideration of the particular bill, and it will have an impact on our judiciary, but also Parliament itself, but the justice delivery system as a whole. Let's get into some of the specifics as far as this particular proposal is concerned that Parliament itself has been considering over the last few days. The MP in question is Francis Xavier Sosu. Before he became a member of Parliament, he was a human rights activist, he's a lawyer, and he is determined to push the point, introducing this private member's bill on the death penalty. But also, he has made a fundamental case that these acts must be amended. And he's introduced the bills to that effect. On the 28th of June 2020, he brought this to the attention of Parliament, and it's now something that Parliament is considering. And he simply wants to abolish the death penalty. But we'll interrogate it a bit more, because as you will see also, he nonetheless wants to give room for the death penalty in cases of high treason and treason. The question to ask is, you're either abolishing it or you're not. Or you're making exceptions. He'll join us for a conversation here on PM Express. But there is more to this, because others have joined him in pushing Ghana to abolish the death penalty. Amnesty International has been campaigning globally for the abolishment of the death penalty since 1985, indeed. And so they are very happy with what Francis Xavier Sosu is attempting to do in Parliament, is taking some action. There's been a lot of talk, there's been a lot of debate. Nobody has actually managed to go beyond the talk and introduce something of substance that will get the MPs to start a conversation. But that's what he's doing. And Amnesty International makes the point, their position is really, really simple, that it is a breach of fundamental human rights, particularly the right to life. Also, that as far as this matter is concerned, under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, they also find that to be an affront to it, and it cannot be reversed when the alleged person is exonerated. So if you place somebody on the death row and he's eventually executed, and then later down the line, you discover that he was innocent after all, what do you do? That is already dead. There are cases like that around the world, and those who support the abolishment of the death penalty always cite these cases where people have been executed only for the courts to later on posthumously declare them innocent of the crime for which they've been executed. And that is a fundamental reason why the Amnesty International and others are pushing this. But is Ghana really ready for this type of a sweeping abolishment of the death penalty in our particular circumstance? We'll get into that pretty shortly. But there's a point I need to raise. When you hear Amnesty International raising the point about, the existence of the death penalty is actually an affront to the right to life, our Constitution says something very completely different. Because under our laws and in the supreme law of the land in the Constitution, the right to life is not absolute. It has limitations. And that limitation is consistent with what you see in this particular clause in the Constitution in Article 13.1. You have the right to life, yes, but that right can be curtailed under the law. And the Constitution tells us the conditions under which this will happen. It includes, you can indeed be executed if a court actually finds that you should be, as it imposes the sanctions for a criminal offense under the laws of Ghana, of which he has become convicted. So this is very, very clear. So in Ghana, yes, there is, your right to life is guaranteed, but it's not absolute. So the Constitution makes this absolutely and abundantly clear. And that's something that Amnesty International has been asked before, has put to them, but they insist that the fact that this exists doesn't take away the fact that fundamentally the right to life is sacrosanct, of course. But that's where we have other members of parliament who are also raising the counter-argument. One of them is Cletus Avoka. His counter-argument is simple, that the Constitution makes that provision, which I just read there. Scrapping the death penalty says we'll just embolden criminals to misbehave. The death sentence, indeed, in these matters, you can appeal against it. And if indeed the court hears the matter and there's merit in it, they will reverse before it goes to actual execution. So there are people who are opposed to it, like Cletus Avoka. But Amnesty International has told us historically why they believe fundamentally Ghana needs to let this go. Because really, it's been on our books, but for 30 years we haven't executed anybody. And yet we have as many as 172 people who are on the death row currently, ending 2022, that we haven't executed. Why? So if we aren't executing them, and we haven't done so for 30 years, then what's the point of having it there? We are actually, that this is not something that we can implement. This is not a law that we still have the courage and the conviction to go ahead and execute people. So take it off then, completely. Don't keep it on the books. And if you look at the trend here, it tells a story of the point that Amnesty International is making. Because if you track the numbers, it tells you that since 2010, we've been having a lot more people being placed on the death row because the courts are still finding people guilty of criminal offenses that come with the death penalty and imposing the maximum penalty of death on these individuals. And it keeps growing. 2012, we have the highest number of people being convicted and placed on the death penalty. And as you've already seen there, the number is 172, right? That they've been on the books for 30 years. We haven't managed to get them executed, although they've been on death row. So what's happening to them, and what do you do? There's an argument by Amnesty International that push for the law to be abolished and then let the law take retrospective effect. That everybody else who have been convicted and carried on death row, sentences should be commuted to life imprisonment, which, by the way, is what Francis Xavier Sosu is also pushing. And as you can see there, we have people, as of 2022, we have 7 people who have been convicted and have been placed on the death row. And this is as latest as that. So it's very possible that this year we may have that, but this is what the data tells us as of now. So clearly, there's some disjoint, some disconnect between what the law says and what the authorities are committed to do. They have the courage, the convictions to actually go ahead and execute people. It appears they don't. So if you don't, why don't you just scrap it, is the argument. And again, if you look at what is happening in the other countries on the continent, it appears that the trend is towards abolishment, because we have 26 of the 55 African countries who have already completely abolished the death penalty. Then we have a further 15 of them who are simply introducing a different approach to this. They have imposed a moratorium, a long-term moratorium on execution. We haven't done any of the two. We have not abolished and we've not placed a moratorium. We've simply avoided executing people, although we continue putting people on the death row, as I've exhibited for you in the statistics. And then you have 15, including Ghana, and we retain the death penalty on our books. We need to have a conversation, because as we see the countries in the world where death penalty is something that they use on a daily basis, the highest comes in China, where 1,000 people have been executed just between 2017 and 2020 alone. These countries, they really take the death penalty seriously. And if you find yourself on the death penalty there, you are sure to go to be executed. And then you have a country like Iran, where 576 people have been executed. You have Saudi Arabia, you have Egypt, on the continent, by the way, the highest so far on the continent, where you have as many as 24 people executed. In the US as well, that's the case in some of these states there: Singapore, Iraq, Kuwait, Somalia, and in South Sudan. So 3 African countries there. But if you look at the numbers, pretty small in terms, if you compare it to, say, China and to Iran and others. On the continent of Africa, we have a tendency not to be as committed to the laws on our books, for those who have not repealed it, to go ahead and execute people. And so the debate is scrap it. But there's a counter debate there. Retain it. Tonight we're going to hear both sides, especially now that Parliament is considering this on the back of Francis Xavier Sosu's private members bill, which is before the House. Please stay with me as we get into these details.
Own your luxury. What if you could enjoy ultra luxury in the environs of Sakumono? What if you could have a share of affluence all to yourself? Step into our 5-bedroom executive Ohima suite, or our 4-bedroom Oyster Asantewa space, or our 4-bedroom plush Kukwa unit, and discover a whole world of possibilities. It's not just a building, it's a promise of a dream come true. Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we were going to occupy them ourselves. Reach us on 0553 662 366 or 0544 299
Kwesi pa. Nansa be na unumi.
Whiskey.
Wash. All of a sudden, my voice I hear different. And when you saw I call. Barman, bring me the honey whiskey. You know the one? Black Rock Whiskey.
Honey whiskey.
Chalet, honey near their frau. Black Rock Whiskey is strong. Now so taste me is smooth and it goes down easy. Excuse me.
Barman.
Barman, bring my friend one Black Rock Whiskey.
Black Rock Whiskey, blended with natural honey flavor.
Hey, what's up?
Barman.
Hey, what the hell for Sikanton Sata? The Pia Binto Manano.
Black Rock Whiskey can be the feeling smoothness, no.
Drink responsibly. Not for sale to persons under 18 years of age and not recommended for pregnant women. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint. As compared to other paint brands on the market, we take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo Superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Daddy, this tank is big.
Yes, that's true.
It can store a lot of water.
That's so true.
Wow, it has a working tortoise on it.
That's so true.
I can see SINTEX. Syntax.
That is so true, my daughter.
When it falls down, it will spoil.
That's not true.
But why?
Hey! Syntex was the first to introduce double-layer tanks in Ghana. Syntex again was the first to introduce white inner layers in Ghana. Syntex gives you the biggest warranty, 7 years. No matter your water needs, Syntex is the answer. Syntex tank. Are you strong? Are you tough?
Daddy, this tank is big.
Yes, that's true.
It can store a lot of water.
That's so true.
Wow, it has a working tortoise on it.
That's so true.
I can see SINTEX. Syntax.
That is so true, my daughter.
When it falls down, it will spoil.
That's not true.
But why?
Hey! Syntex was the first to introduce double-layer tanks in Ghana. Syntex again was the first to introduce white inner layers in Ghana. Syntex gives you the biggest warranty, 7 years. No matter your water needs, Syntex is the answer. Syntex tank. Are you strong? Are you tough?
EcoBank salary account, bro. See, with the EcoBank salary account, you will enjoy free life insurance, free debit card, save while you spend, and an amazing chance to double your salary. And even more consolation rewards in the EcoBank double salary promo reloaded.
Guy, this EcoBank salary account sounds interesting. What do you think?
Yara, but maybe next time, Charlie. You know what? I'll go shine my shoe.
Yo, myself, I'll go check my BP.
We going up, never go down, and we stay fly.
Chairman, you see the white sign it here.
Open an EcoBank salary account today for a lifetime of benefits. You also stand a chance to win more than double your salary in the EcoBank Double Salary Promo Reloaded from now till July 31st. Terms and conditions apply.
And chop life regardless.
This promo is under the supervision of the National Lottery Authority under the Caritas Lottery Platform.
And thank you very much for staying with us here on PM Express. My guests have joined us for a conversation in the studio. I would introduce them to you pretty shortly, but remember that PM Express is always brought to you by Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we were going to occupy them ourselves. Also is brought to you by Syntex Tank. It is strong, it is tough. Alomo Bitters, experience greatness in every moment. And the Ghana AIDS Commission also. And just want to give you a bit of detail on Syntex Tank, because no matter your water needs, Syntex Tank has it all. Syntex Tank is first to introduce the double layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex Tank is first to introduce white inner layer tanks in Ghana. We now introduce to you the customer specs order. We let you order any color and size of preference. Syntex Tanks gives you the longest warranty of 7 years. which no other tank gives you in Ghana. So whatever your water consumption, size of project, or demand, you need to choose Syntex tank. We have agents nationwide. Call them on 0244-335-168 or shop online at syntexgh.com. A strong, a tough. And then let's talk about passion. Because at Cherry Tree Properties, we believe in building with passion. Because desires are just wishes. Beauty is a promise of happiness, but passion is the real deal. Thinking about buying a new home, you talk to those who build with passion. Sloan Square is what I introduced to you. It's a new gated community development at Sakumono. It's developed by Cherry Tree Properties, a one-of-a-kind, well-planned luxury you've never experienced. Call them on 0553-662-366, 0553-662-366. Cherry Tree Properties, sophistication and class. In the studio with me is Francis Xavier Sosu. He is lawyer and MP for Medina constituency. Thank you very much. And Cletus Avoka, a good friend of mine, former Minister for the Interior and MP for Zebela. And I'll start with you, Francis, because you introduced this private members bill in Parliament. Let's start with the very latest on that. Was it last week that it came to the floor?
That is correct. I mean, last week was the second time it came to the floor. It had already been read the first time and referred to the Constitutional Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. So the committee, upon conclusion of its work, laid its report before the House. Usually before the report is laid, a motion is moved for the second reading. Then in seconding the motion, the report is laid for consideration of the House. So essentially what we did last week was to move the motion. So the debate is yet to conclude, and then the Speaker will put the question for the second reading of the bill.
And then you're hoping that there'll be more people agreeing with you to repeal the law.
That is what I hope. I'm confident that is what would happen.
Okay.
Once Speaker comes and takes over and puts the question. Yes.
Let me bring in Mr. Avoka. Mr. Avoka, thanks for joining us. Will you be one of those agreeing when the question is posed that the law that we've just detailed should be repealed?
No, thank you, Evans. Good evening to your viewers and your good self and my very able colleague, Honorable Francis Sosu. I am against the abolition of the death penalty in the statute books of Ghana, and I hold that view very firmly with a lot of others in Parliament.
And why is that?
Well, the arguments are many. And the proponents of the bill that want to abolish the death penalty in the statute books have not been able to convince me and many Ghanaians that this is the best option for us at this time of our political, economic, and social dispensation in the country. What are the arguments in favor of the abolition of the death penalty in our statute books? They started by talking about human rights. You indicated earlier when you were introducing the topic that it's against human rights to take the life of somebody. Now, there are two sides of the coin. If it is against a human right to kill somebody, then what about you have taken somebody's life without a trial, without provocation, without justification? What about if you are caught and then you go through a process, a rigorous process, a laborious process, a long process, and then found guilty? After you have been found guilty, you even have the opportunity to appeal to a court of appeal, Supreme Court, etc. You have these opportunities. Yet you think that this is flawed. But somebody can just get up and then 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. get to somebody's house, forcefully break into the house, then wake him up rudely from bed, he and his family, and then traumatize them. In the process, he kills the breadwinner of the house and goes. He is arrested. Even he's caught red-handed. And still that he goes through a legal process. Now, when they talk about judicial uncertainty, I say that what is certain on this earth? What is certain? Nothing is certain. There are normally 1%, 2% extra plus or minus and the rest of them. If you compare murder trial to that of a civil trial, murder trial, as I indicated in the chamber, is composed of jurors of 7 people. And these are people who live in the same community like the accused person who is standing trial for the murder. They have the same lifestyle, beliefs, etc. with him. They are not technical people, so to speak. They are jury people. And then they empanel them, and the judge is only there to direct them on points of law. But as far as the facts are concerned, 7 people are going to determine the fate of this person who is standing trial. At the end of the day, the verdict of the jurymen or the jury persons must be unanimous. All 7 of them must agree to the guilt of the fellow before he's convicted of murder. If one of them says he doesn't understand or he doesn't agree, the fellow is a free man. Even if he is, in fact, and he must be represented by counsel. If he or his family cannot provide a lawyer for himself, the state compulsorily gets a lawyer for him to defend him, because they know, the state appreciate the fact that it's not easy to take somebody's life. He must be, the burden must be one that is proven beyond all reasonable doubt, without a shadow of doubt. These are the ingredients of a murder trial. So he has a lawyer to himself, then he has jurors to himself. Then the decision or the verdict of the jurors must be unanimous. Otherwise, he's acquitted and discharged. Then even if he loses the case in the High Court, then he has opportunity to appeal to the Court of Appeal. He has opportunity to appeal to the Supreme Court. This is the rigorous procedure that goes through murder trials, as compared to a civil case, where it is only one judge or magistrate who sits on the case, and at the end of the
We've lost him there, but we'll try and reconnect. But he's making a very strong case, Francis, on the point that somebody takes somebody else's life without due process, and yet you say that even when the person is taken to due process, with all the details that he's laid out there, that ensures that he has a fair trial and he's convicted and sentenced to death, he should still be spared when he's taking somebody else's life.
Well, once again, a very good evening to my cherished people in Medina, as well as my learned senior. And to quickly say that the advocacy here is not to free prisoners or to free offenders. The case is not that people who commit offenses that will carry death penalty should be freed. That's not what we are saying. We are saying that life sentence is punishment enough. You know, many people have not had a chance to travel to prisons in Ghana. If you go to Nsawan prisons and you visit where people live in the prison, and you visit the condemned cells where people who are convicted for these crimes are kept, you probably will think a bit differently. And now, I think let me make it very clear that the major argument I keep hearing is the fact that we say somebody killed and he doesn't have the one that is killed does not have human rights. That is, when you take the report of the Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee that was laid before Parliament on the 6th July 2023, no such argument was made. Indeed.
By those who oppose.
No. I mean, by the, I think he premised his argument on the fact that those who are supporting are saying that they cite human rights. And I'm saying that when you take this report, a really, really great job has been done with this report. And
so the proponents you've not put forward the human rights.
Human rights has not been canvassed, even though there are rights issues. But that is not what we are interested in right now. Look,
but fundamentally, beyond legalities, if you kill somebody, you deserve to be killed too.
Evans,
if the court finds you guilty.
No. You see, Evans, where is this from?
You take somebody's
life. Where is the origin of if you take somebody's life, your life must be taken.
The penalty must fit the crime.
You see, so
you say freezing is hard.
No. So that they see that.
But the ultimate penalty is death. Freezing, the fact that you are alive alone is just good enough, right?
Well, you see, Evans,
no matter how horrible the freezing circumstance and conditions are, you are alive. Somebody had no chance.
No, Evans, this is a truth. The reality today is that if you were convicted of any of the crimes that carry death penalty, you are confounded to prison and you are not killed. That is a reality. So it should be the case. You see, and that approach leaves two loose ends. One, the victim of the crime and the family members of the family members of the victim never would have closure. Because
that's not exactly true.
Well, it is, because if you say somebody should be killed by hanging and the person is kept in prison and not hanged, how do I, if I were in court and I was a family of a victim who has passed away or any other crime that was charged, and the court says that you are hereby sentenced to death by hanging,
and you're not hanged,
so
shouldn't you rather be complaining for the authorities to enforce the law?
I'll come there, you see, and you are not hanged. Not 1 year, not 2 years, not 3 years, 10 years, you are still in prison. I don't have closure. That's the first one. Secondly, the person who has been convicted and sentenced to prison also has no closure. So it's two things. It's either we have the capacity, the temerity to kill the people.
But we have the capacity. We just don't want to do it.
Or if we don't want to do it, then we don't need the law. That is what it means.
No, but the flip side is that maybe just like you spend a lot of energy to get a bill to repeal it, we should spend a lot of energy to get the authorities to simply execute the people when they be found guilty.
So that is impossible. You know why? Because Ghana is not an island, right? We are signatories to several international statutes, including the recent voting by the president at the UN in favor of the moratorium to end the use of death penalty. So it's not going to happen that we are going to kill. Now, secondly, Evans, you see, the argument is not only about merely keeping people because they've gone through the rigorous process and have been found guilty. There are many times that judges get it wrong. Jury may get it wrong. Investigation may go wrong. And the possibility of that one person you can kill wrongly is the more reason why you don't need this. Because if the argument you are making right now is anything to go by, what it means is that anytime the state makes a mistake with killing of a person the state shouldn't have killed, then right from the one who signed the warrant to kill, to the prison officers who went for the person and brought the person, the police, whoever was in that line, all of them must be killed. That is what it means, because then it's eye for eye, right? And in this country, recently when we were in Parliament, one of the most compelling arguments I heard was that of Honorable B.T. Baba. Because before coming to Parliament, he was a director of operations of the Ghana Prison Service. And he narrated a very sad incident of, preparation of lists for purposes of killing those who were supposed to be killed. And it turned out that at one time, by a mistaken identity, somebody's name had been added to the list of people who must be killed and got killed here in Ghana. So it's not something that is so far away from us. And that's the more reason why we must be more careful when we argue for retention of death penalty. Secondly,
stay with me, because you've canvassed there. Let me put that fundamental point to Mr. Avoka. What do you say to that point? The point that mistakes can be made. But this is a mistake you can't reverse.
I tried to explain. I tried to explain that earlier. That is where they talk about judicial uncertainty, and I've said that in this world there is no perfection. I mean, it's difficult to think that everything can be 100%. But one, there are people who confess to murder, so there's no issue of a mistake there. There are people who are caught red-handed. So there's no issue of mistake there. What should happen to those people? For example, your colleague, our very good brother Swale, in traffic, they gunned him down.
Yeah.
Supposing Good Samaritans were there and arrested these assailants, supposing they were Good Samaritans and arrested them there, watertight evidence. 2, they come to your house midnight and then kill you in the process, on the process of robbing you. They are surrounded by police and they are arrested. Where is the uncertainty in those cases? 3, look, in this society now, where there's contract killing, the danger is that if we pass this law now, we are going to open the society to criminals in the first place. That means we have lost the battle for safety, and therefore we are opening the society for criminals. Secondly, we are going to give Ghanaian communities leeway to exert self-help and to do justice on mob action, mob justice on the spur of the moment. Because they will say, if we send him to court, nothing will happen. They will only imprison him, and then he had the chance to come out. So let's kill him. We are going to lose more innocent people. We are going to lose more lives if this law is actually implemented. If this bill comes into law. Many people already, they have a jaundiced view, or they have suspicion and mistrust about the judicial system. You go and add this now, that in fact, if you kill somebody, the law will not take your life. After all, the fellow will be there so that he can be reformed. Evans, there are 3 principles of this jurisprudence. They talk about deterrence, they talk about retributive, and then they talk about reformation. My colleagues are only talking about reformation. The fellow who has committed murder, he can be reformed. What about the element of deterrence in society? What about the element of retributive? Because there are 3 ingredients. 1, you are talking. What about the 2 that are against you? Deterrence is against you. And the courts even say that when they want to punish somebody because to serve as a deterrent to others, his good record becomes immaterial. His previous good record becomes immaterial if they are going to punish you to serve as a deterrent to people in the society, because that type of crime is commonplace. We are in an era where contract killing is common. We are in an era where armed robbery is common. We are in an era where, like the police that have killed these 2 days, one in Jamestown and one at Ablekuma. How do you countenance this type of conduct?
But Mr. Avoka, currently in 30 years, we haven't executed anybody on death row. We have 172 cases.
Evans, I agree with you, yes. So, I mean, we haven't killed anybody for the past 30 years. Why rock the boat?
But the effect of that
why
is...
rock the boat?
The effect of that is that...
Why don't we maintain the status quo?
But the effect of that is that law is actually a paper tiger. It's actually not something we are willing to implement. So why don't you just take it off?
Not that we are not willing to implement. Let it be there. It will serve the purpose one day. Let me give you this example. In 1973, I was in the law faculty. 1973. You recall, you would have been young or thereabout. But there was this guy, this prominent lawyer in Sudan called lawyer Dr. I.L. Ohenejan. Ohenejan is alleged to have murdered his house help also. And then during the course of the trial, the lawyers gleaned through the criminal procedure code and came by a provision on plea bargaining. So they had to negotiate with the Attorney General on the ground of plea bargaining and the rest of them, because the advantage is that you cut short the trial, you admit certain things, and then they also forgive you on certain things, and you come to terms, you come to a middle line. Look, since 1960, it was until 1973, 75 that provision was being invoked. So look, you talk about you sentence people to life. Look, a crazy president can come, not even a crazy, it is normal that every year the president of the country grants amnesty to criminals, people who are on death sentence, etc. He can do so. Imagine you losing a loved one 3-4 years ago. Your breadwinner is lost. the pain, the anxiety, the anguish, the loss you have suffered. Then 3-4 years time, they grant such a fellow amnesty, he comes a rumor about. What will the family do? The bill does not take care of the victims. It does not provide for the state to compensate victims where there's abundant evidence that they have actually intentionally taken the life of his spouse. It doesn't provide any cushioning. It doesn't provide any leverage for the victim's family. There's no balancing act. It is just one way. Don't kill anybody again and that type of thing. I think if we do that, we are going to surrender the Ghanaian society to criminals. We are going to make sure what is going to happen is that many Ghanaians have lost faith in the judicial system. This will now worsen the situation, and everybody will now undertake what we call mob justice. Let me arrest somebody and they kill him.
Let me put that question of deterrence to him. Where is the deterrence now to murder? If you take this off.
Now, first of all, Evans, let me put this in the right context. I think that, with all due respect to my learned senior, much of what he's canvassed on this show is appealing to, one, emotion and being very emotive about it. Secondly, very, very speculative. You see, we don't make laws based on speculations, and we don't make laws based on just emotions. Laws must be made based on research and available information. Look, we are in West Africa. Togo has abolished the penalty.
So?
No, I'm coming. Togo has abolished the penalty. Côte d'Ivoire abolished the penalty.
Burkina
Faso has abolished the penalty. Did you ever hear that there's any research that shows that once they abolished the penalty, the country was handed over to criminals?
Not only that. But go to Burkina Faso.
Not only that. I'll come back to
Burkina Faso. The crime rate in Burkina Faso is off the chain.
I checked.
I checked for fun.
You see, I checked that.
We are surrounded by countries that are struggling. Many will say, now we know why.
No.
With security.
No, that is false. You see, that is false unless you have a research to back.
No, I'm not talking about we read the stories, we know the statistics, we are surrounded by countries overridden by terrorists.
Evans, listen.
Who kill people for fun.
And
that is why our borders are inundated with people running away from Burkina Faso and other places
there
into the country.
There is no empirical basis to prove that it is just because these countries took away the penalty. There's no empirical basis to prove that. Rather, if there is no, you see,
but there's no death penalty there.
No. You see,
and rather, we have a crime rate that is very, very high.
You see, rather, as we speak today, if you want the comparative analysis, which was provided as part of the work of the committee, you will see it clear. In fact, countries that have abolished death penalty, generally across the world, are the most peaceful.
I'm talking about Africa.
Let's
see those countries. Let's see those countries.
I'm not going. I won't give you those peaceful countries right now. I'm comparing rates within the United States of America.
Yeah.
Because in the U.S., at the federal level, they still retain death penalty. But at the state levels, and that's why it's a good example. Because at the state level, there are several states that have abolished death penalty. Others retain death penalty without using it. But for a consistent studies that have been done in the U.S. from 2010 all the way to 2019, when they compared these two countries and look at rates of violent crime, consistent.
Which two countries?
Rates of rates of states that retain death penalty and states that do not retain death penalty.
Yeah, but that's the U.S. I don't think that we are comparing like for like. What has happened? What has happened in the African countries, very like us, with the same economic circumstance, with people having the penchant to take other person's life for 5 cedis. We've had it in this country. What's the story?
Evans, we have Angola, Benin, Burundi, Cape Verde, Congo, Côte d'Ivoire, Djibouti, Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Madagascar, Mauritius, Mozambique, Namibia, Rwanda, Sao Tome, Senegal, Seychelles, South Africa, and Togo.
Yeah, we know that.
So my question is that.
Make the same argument. What about the deterrence argument? You're saying that in the U.S. example, you take off the death penalty, And that actually leads, we still have a low crime rate. The deterrence argument.
Let me respond to the
what is the
deterrence
situation
argument.
there?
Let me respond to the deterrence argument. There is no evidence whatsoever that shows that at the time a person is committing a crime that would have death penalty, the person contemplates the use of a death penalty against that person.
But I'd rather have that than not have it at all.
No. You see, the reason I'm saying that is that, you should be able to have that link. If the link is not there, it's not there. In fact, researches have been done across many African sub-regions. And, I can't provide all the researches here, but I can provide them to you. That shows that there is no correlation between the existence of death penalty and crime, generally. The factors that affect or what lead people to commission of crimes, it has nothing to do with whether or not you retain a death penalty on a study book.
But surely, deterrence is an important part of law enforcement.
But you see, why?
It's why we have laws in the first place.
Okay,
to deter.
You know what? Do you know that smuggling in gold and diamond carry death penalty?
Death penalty?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Which part of our law says if you smuggle gold, you
yes.
be killed for it?
There are 5 main offenses that carry death penalty under the Criminal Offences Act. Murder is just one of them.
Which are the others?
Attempted murder is one. Piracy is one. Genocide is one. And then smuggling in gold and diamond. As I speak to you now, any attorney general, and if I were attorney general, and I really want to target somebody, I can frame a charge of smuggling in gold and diamond on account of all these galamsey issues that are happening. And people could be killed.
But that hasn't happened.
Well,
that's hypothetical. It's never happened.
You see, but much of what he's canvassing is hypothetical. You see, we forget that hypothesis can go either way. And let me use the platform to warn. And the reason I'm saying I'm warning is that, look, Evans, check the statistics in Ghana. Since independence, when you check the statistics in Ghana, since independence, Ghana has executed, until the 1992 Constitution, Ghana has executed 37 people. 37 people, including a head of state. And when you check the 37 people who were killed, it was mostly during military regimes.
The point being?
No. So, it was mostly during military regimes. I'm saying that in all civil regimes, the need for the use of the death penalty has never been invoked as much as it has been used during military regimes.
And the point being?
I'll come there. And the very last time there was execution in Ghana, which was the 17th July, 1993. And since that time, within this Fourth Republic, no government has ever been able to use the death penalty. What I'm saying is that the death penalty generally, for the countries you mentioned where they are used, they are mostly weaponized tools for political vindictiveness. That is what, in fact, you can check it. Recently, Myanmar in Asia, they kept those laws on their statute books. For 42 years, they never used the death penalty. But just last year, when there was a military takeover in Myanmar, you know what happened? The military takeover in Myanmar, 4 of the leaders were killed, including activists.
Let me put that.
Let me finish that last one. You see, and that one, you know why in Burkina Faso, when there was a coup, recently there were 2 coups in Burkina Faso. You know why they could not, activate death penalty provisions in 2022? Because in 2018, they had abolished the death penalty.
Let me put that to Mr. Kletersbach. Mr. Kletersbach, he's right, as you know, because if you look at the countries with the highest rates of executions since 2017, the list makes for a very interesting reading. Those are the countries that we know routinely victimize and target their political opponents and dissidents. China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, where Jamal Khashoggi was murdered. It's something that they do. Is he not right that if you look at the history of this country, for example, it is in our collective interest to get rid of this before we have the next tyrant?
Evans, let's limit ourselves to our society. Let's limit ourselves to Ghana. Now, we are in the process of passing a law on LGBTQ+. Will China pass such a law? Will Iraq and then Iran and Egypt, will they go there and talk about those laws? They will not. So for goodness sake, let's limit ourselves to our society, to our country, and then deal with issues that will help us to develop politically, socially, economically, rather than this globe-trotting. For example, you talk about Western countries and then the European countries, that they have abolished the death penalty extra. In those countries, armed robbery is virtually non-existent as compared to what we have in Ghana. In those countries, contract killing is virtually non-existent or comparatively lower than we have in this country. They have their society that are disciplined. Look, let me give you this example. Until about 10 years ago, road traffic accidents, if you drove a car and killed anybody, they charge you with careless driving and negligently causing harm, etc. With time, we amended, we changed the Road Traffic Act and added murder, that you can be charged with murder if you involve yourself in certain types of accidents. For example, there are students on the road, maybe organizing a demonstration or having a festival. You drive your tipper or articulated truck and come and kill 20, 30 of them. They check your vehicle and you don't have any mechanical fault, nothing. Then you just did it intentionally to cause mayhem. That is why we passed that law in Parliament in Ghana here, saying that there are certain road accidents, if you get involved in them and take human life, they'll charge you with murder. We passed that law. So, I mean, if we talk about growing tribute to other countries, for example, if you talk about Togo, Burkina Faso, and then Ivory Coast, like Cote d'Ivoire, comparatively, these three countries, as mentioned, and Ghana, which of them have a better human rights record? Which of them? Ghana. If you go to Upper East region now, it's full of refugees from Burkina Faso. It's virtually becoming a failed state. Somebody can say because they have taken out their pen and that's why everybody is now going around killing people free. Togo, what is the human rights record? Lakota, what is the human rights record? So we should not try to glorify our case by referring to countries that have no good example. They have no good example as far as human rights are concerned. Even if you go to their forest reserves and then they just check on your car and there's blood stain on your car, then you are going to prison. There's no question of proving your guilt. They say once they have seen blood stains in your car, then you have killed the animal. Then that's intentional, and therefore you go to prison. They don't ask for witnesses and whatnot. So we should not compare this country to our country. Ghana, we are blessed. We have human rights. We have a very stable constitution. But we are saying that, given the circumstance we find ourselves now, where contract killing is common, where intentional murder is common, look, let the law remain as it is.
Yeah, Mr. Boka,
we can visit.
Mr. Boka, eventually this will come to a vote. Do you have enough members who are aligned with your view to kill this attempt to repeal the law?
Last week, with my colleague there, my very good brother Sosu will tell you. Last week, when the motion was was made on the floor of the House, those who wanted to retain the law, we are going to carry the day. Ask any MP who was in Parliament on that day. We are going to carry. He himself was afraid, but the Speaker
practically did not put the question. He just said because he looked at the tenor of debate. I carried the whole House. Virtually 80% of those MP who were there agreed with me on these issues. That yes, we are not right to abolish this law. Let the law remain there for the rainy day. Let me forward. So we in the case, it's very simple. That they would have won the case, But
it appears he was saved. He was saved by the Speaker.
He was saved by the Speaker. Ask anyone who was in the chamber that day. He was saved by the Speaker. And the Speaker was heckling me. And I had to draw the Speaker attention to the fact that he was descending into the arena of debate and no more acting as a Speaker. I challenged the Speaker. So he was afraid to put the question. Otherwise, we would have carried the day. And I'm saying that anybody who listens to our argument, what argument has he given? What compelling reason has he given? Nothing. Human rights, They have abandoned that argument. The uncertainty in the judicial system. Look, Evans, look, these countries that he mentioned, these Western countries, why are they manufacturing atomic bombs? What does an atomic bomb do? It kills, without question. Why are they manufacturing weapons of mass destruction? These same countries, the Americas, the UKs, and the rest of them, why are they manufacturing these weapons? To kill human beings. Will those human beings be tried at all? If they value life so much, why manufacture atomic bomb? Why manufacture weapons of mass destruction?
Let me put the parliamentary issues to him in the numbers.
He mentioned, no, you gave me a lot of time. He talked about BT Baba, Honorable BT Baba, talking about somebody's name was added to the prisons list, and then they were going to execute and whatnot. Yeah, this is not what we are talking about, Evans. We are talking about people who have been arraigned before a court of competent jurisdiction. They are given all the opportunity, plus a free legal aid to try them through a process, and then the opportunity of appeal and the rest of them. If this is a military junta or something, they don't try the people and they smuggle one name and add it. Is that what we are talking about? We are talking about people who
okay, we have a few minutes.
Let me add. Let me just say this.
I want to get this thought before I wrap up. It's essential that I do that. Right. It's essential that I do that. I mean, Francis, a quick clarification though. Yeah. You make an exception in your bill for treason and high treason, correct?
That's correct.
But why? I mean, either you want it abolished or you don't.
No. Well, I think that, we must understand that the treason and high treason provisions in the Constitution are entrenched provisions.
So that will take you a lot more effort to repeal.
It will require a constitutional, amendment through referendum. That's number one. Number two, all the 176 people on death row today were all charged under the Act 29 with the Criminal Offences Act. And so, essentially working on these ones without running into the constitutional challenges is a safer route.
So you mean a practical impossibility because of all the burden that you
second, you see, Evan, there are a number of researches which we cannot quote all here, but one of them by Amnesty International from the Insane prison here showed that in 2006, 12 prisoners on death row were able to appeal their decisions, and half of them, 50%, were successful, and their convictions were overturned. What I'm saying is that if you go to Insane prison today, all the 176 people on death row, the possibility that if all of them could have the capacity to go to court for an appeal, some of them will have their death sentences overturned is really high. But if you do the background of people, in prison today, and you just suppose it with sometimes the high cost of legal fees. For example, if you're on a felony trial, you need minimum 60,000 and maximum 120,000 before you can get a lawyer. If you are doing indictable
for the entire life of the trial?
For the trial, yes. And if you are doing criminal appeals, and you are appealing this one, you may have to appeal to Court of Appeal. Your minimum you pay is 150,000, and your maximum is 240,000. If you are moving from Court of Appeal to Supreme Court, the scale of fees says that 150,000 to 300,000. If you do a background search and economic analysis of those people, and the fact that a number of them do not have even the capacity to appeal their sentences, you will realize that the possibility that you may have people there who shouldn't have been there will be really high. Then, Evans, let me quickly say that this whole idea of us advocating for the review of these laws didn't start today.
Yeah.
And this is not necessarily Francis Xavier Sosu's ideas. Indeed,
but you've taken action.
No. You see, indeed, in 2010, the then president Mills set up the Constitutional Review Commission, and the commission did an extensive work. Today, I found some Hansas in Parliament where it was Honorable Cletus Savoka who was laying instruments on the Constitutional Review Commission. One of the recommendations by that Constitutional Review Commission was that we remove death penalty from our statute books. The then government under which he served under the same government.
Yeah, but
the government by a government white paper You see, because in policy
there's a distinction there.
No, but the point is that...
He served under the government. If the government took a position...
No, but the government white paper... No, that's fine. It's okay to have personal views. But the point is that when we're talking about policy making, sometimes we give our personal views for the general...
The amendment to the tax laws seeks to address a number of things. One, to correct some anomalies in our tax laws. And two, also to ensure that we improve on compliance. And in some instances, also to raise revenue for the development of the country. So if you look at the amendments of the tax laws, from the VAT, the income tax, the excise, and the growth and the sustainability, all is geared towards these three objectives that I have mentioned. Rent tax is paid by people who have rented out their properties. So means you're getting income from investments. So once you are earning income from investment, you are required to pay income tax. The income tax that we collect comes from three main sources. That is from business, from investment, and from employment. So the aspect of the rent tax comes under investment. So if you have invested in properties and you are renting it out, the income you get from it is an investment income which you are required to pay appropriate tax on it. And the rental of the property could be either for residential or commercial. So whichever way that you are getting income from rental property, you are required to pay tax on it. This has nothing to do with the age of the person. It is income from the property. So once you are earning investment income from the property, you are required to declare and pay the appropriate taxes on that. So that is the Growth and the Sustainability Levy Act, which has recently been passed. And in that law, companies have been categorized into three. So we have category A, category B, and category C. So depending on the category, then you will know the tax that you are supposed to pay. And as I explained, those in category A are mainly those in the telecommunication and bank. For them, they pay the levy at 5% of their profits before tax. So what it means is that if they prepare their account and they declare profit, 5% of that is paid as the Growth and Sustainability Levy. Now those in categories B, they are mainly the extractive. For them, the levy is on their production, and that the rate is 1%. So once you declare your production, 1% of that, you contribute that one as part of your contribution towards sustaining the economy. Then all other entities are in the category C, who are required to pay the levy at 2.5% of their profits. So what it means is that if the base is profits, if you don't make profit, you don't pay. You only pay when you make profit. So for category A and C entities. It's a proposal, so we'll discuss and see how feasible it is. If we feel that it's feasible for us to introduce, government will look at it and bring it on board. So in forums like this, we take suggestions, and so once it comes, it will be considered, it will be tabled for further discussion and see what's the way forward. At the end of the day, we all want to ensure that we are able to mobilize the required revenue for the development of the state. So whichever suggestion that comes,